Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Joel.
Thank you, Fred. It's an honor to be here with you.
Oh, it's great to have you on because I always like getting instructors on, and it's a treat to have a PGA Master teaching professional on. What's the difference between a Master Professional and a PGA certified instructor?
That's a very good question. And
Well, to start off, that's pretty good for me. I'm 1 for 1.
indeed. And again, I'm honored to be here because you have been doing it so long. I've checked out a few of them over the years. So it's, like I said, it's nice to be one of your valued guest here.
Thank you.
But a lot of the confusion comes from the fact that people think the PGA Tour and the PGA of America are the same thing, who are casual golfers. The PGA Tour are the 200 famous guys that we see on TV every weekend, and we enjoy seeing them. But there are only about 200 members of the PGA Tour. But the PGA of America has 30,000 members, and I'm one of those 30,000. And we're the club pros. We're the fellas who run the shop at, Hardscrabble Country Club or, Glen Meadows Golf Course down the road, your municipal golf course down the road. We're the fellows who run the shop there, who operate the business. So there are 30,000 of us. Now, there are 24 different types of PGA of America member. And so maybe a head pro at a driving range is classified as an A2, whereas a head pro at a golf course, who's a PGA member, is classified as A1. I'm called an A6 because I just give lessons all day long every day since 1992 when I left Sea Island to go down to the Jacksonville, Ponte Vedra area. And then in 2000, I had been a member for 10 years and I had some good success as a teaching pro. And I'd done a lot of studying to become a master professional. And so in 2000, I became a master professional. And that's just because I'd done so much education and kind of a thesis, like a graduate level thesis, a big thick workbook I presented and passed the oral test with some muckety mucks down in Florida. And so they call me a master professional since 2000. And there are about 300 of us now, I think, in the United States that are master professionals. But about 250 of those master professionals run courses. They're a head pro or a general manager at a country club or a public course or a resort. But only about 100 of us master professionals teach full time, like me. I think there are only about 100 of us or 120 of us maybe. So I'm one of those 100 or 120 master professionals in the country who just teach. We don't run a course, we don't manage the employees or run the tournaments or run the food and beverage. We just give lessons all day, and I've been doing that since 1992, like I said, when I left Sea Island. So a master professional just has a higher level of education, certification, and accomplishment. And then among PGA Master Professionals, there are only about 100 of us who actually just teach all day, just give lessons. We don't run the shop. We're thankful for the guys who run the shop, so we can have a beautiful golf course and a beautiful driving range and a beautiful resort to go to because of our fellow professionals. So that gives you a little idea. I'm just one of the guys who just teaches all day and happens to also be a Master Professional.
And do the Master Professionals also instruct PGA instructors?
That's a good question too, man. I appreciate that. I have done a few classes over the years at some of our chapter or section meetings because the guys knew of my reputation and wanted me to do that. I've also taught classes at the Professional Golf Management program at Ohio State University where they train college-age students who want to become PGA members. And I've enjoyed doing that about once a year for about 8 years or so. I taught a class up there for the professional golf management students who are burgeoning PGA members. So quite often we'll get called upon to tell the guys, the things we've learned over the years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now you mentioned there's A1, A2, and you're an A6. Is there a 3, 4, and 5?
Yes, indeed. When I became a member in 1990, a PGA member in 1990, I was working at Sea Island at the time, and I think there were 9 different Class A card members, okay. 9 different types. A1 was a head pro at a golf course. A2 was a head pro at a driving range. A3 was I think, oh, a tour player, a PGA Tour player, in fact, is A3.
Okay.
In fact, and so that's that. And then A4, I think, was like a past president of the association. A5 was something else. So in 1990, there were six or about nine classifications. You
Right.
know, because you're doing different work, so they decided to keep different classifications. And then now it's up to A24.
Oh my.
So now, see, if you work at Golf Galaxy, you can still be a PGA member. In the old days, if you weren't a head pro at a golf course or driving range, green grass, and you went to work at Walmart, and even if you sold golf equipment there, you couldn't be called a PGA member anymore. You left the golf industry in their mind. So they've done a lot of improvising in my lifetime to where now you're up to A24. And in fact, it's
Wow.
kind of cute. The A24 is a PGA member who cannot be classified as one of the first 23 classifications. So he's just, you know, you might be a golf course architect. You might be a college golf coach. You might be a club repair guy all day long. Again, you might work at an off-course store. So all these possibilities now, you can still be a PGA member and do all these things that older people would say that's not the traditional golf pro at a golf course. But you can still be a PGA member now. And
I
so
get
it's
it.
been pretty interesting to watch. So yeah, we're all the way up to A24.
Wow. Is there a B level or is it just
That's
A's?
that's a great question again, Fred. The B
Okay.
level, B, it doesn't go past B. A
Oh.
B1, let's say, a B1 is an associate, an apprentice. So let's say
Oh.
you're the assistant pro at um, uh, what's Martine? Isn't that Martine where you live? Martin or Martine?
Oh, I live in Marin County.
Marin.
Yeah.
And so and what's there's a nice club out there that's had some USGA championships.
The Olympic Club?
Well, yeah, okay. I was thinking of one for like
Harding
U.S.
Park?
Junior. Yeah, Harding Park. Let's say it's Olympic Club.
Okay.
And in fact, yeah. So the head pro at Olympic Club, who's a PJ member, he has an assistant pro who's called an apprentice or an associate, and a um, he's actually becoming a member, right? He's going through his apprenticeship. He's learning. So he is called an associate. He would be called, and let's say he works in the shop, he would be called a B1.
Okay.
And then when he gets his membership, he would be called, if he becomes the head pro, he's called an A1. So a B1 is basically a PGA apprentice associate.
Okay. Okay.
They're
So I
learning the ropes, and that goes from B1, I think, through B24. So if you're an assistant pro and you haven't gotten your membership yet, you're a B8
your bait.
because you're not quite a member yet. So
Yeah.
you're a B. You're considered as an apprentice slash associate.
So I guess as a podcaster, I'm like Z10.
Oh, well,
Just
that's a good question. I think there might be a classification. There is one for
media
executive.
classification.
Yeah, executive. You could be a PJ member in executive management, where the people who run like a local golf association, like the California Golf Association, you know, something like that. The people who run your amateur tournaments in San Francisco area.
Right.
Uh, that a PJ member, if he wanted to transition from being in the green grass world, he could run the local golf association in your city. So, and some of them do that. So yeah, and some could be. I bet you could be a broadcaster.
Okay. Well, maybe. But well, I do help at the first tee.
Indeed,
I kind of coach at the first tee. Maybe I
indeed,
can get myself up from a Z to an X. I
indeed.
don't know.
I tell you, I was at the playing ability test on Wednesday here locally.
Oh, what is that?
There were 19, 18 men and one lady trying to become a PJ member in the sense that they were trying to pass the playing ability test.
Hmm.
And three or four of them were over the age of 50.
Oh, good for
So
us.
it's not always just the college age guys that are getting into business.
Great, great. All right, so there's so much to talk about golf instruction. If that's what you're focused on doing every day is instructing amateur golfers, recreational golfers, then I'm going to want to get deep into that because I'm sure you see a lot of the same thing over and over and over again. He's
Exactly.
nodding. This is an audio podcast. You can't nod here.
Okay. So you'd like to know what some of that same thing is?
Yeah, and we'll do that after this. All right, Joel, let's get into it. Let's talk about golf instruction. This is really what it's all about here. And, you know, what people are doing when they walk in and how they've changed when they walk out. What do you see on a regular basis?
Well, what I have found over the years, Fred, believe it or not, is that you and I and the guy who shoots 100 actually played just like Bryson
Oh, well, that's good to know.
and Tiger Woods, believe it or not. And
In
what I
what
mean by
way?
that is we're all fighting the same battle. If all of us have a personal bell curve, all right? I say our bell curve stands for PGA, poor, good, average.
Oh, I
All
like
of
it.
us, all of us, 60% of our rounds are average, according to you talk to a statistician, a boy or a girl who's just majored in math in college. It's a fact. Everybody has 60% of their rounds being average, and 20% of their rounds being on the good side of their bell curve, and 20% of their rounds being on the poor side of their bell curve. So I call that your personal PGA bell curve. Poor, good, average is what PGA stands for in this scenario. And what I've found is that there are three things that really determine where you fall in each and every round on your personal bell curve, whether you are Tiger, Bryson, Fred, or Joel, or Mrs. Kerfluffle at the club.
Be nice to Mrs. Kerfluffle.
Indeed, absolutely. And Mr.
Go ahead. Now I'm really intrigued here. Let's talk
Yeah,
about
so
what the commonality is, because
the commonality,
I've always kind of noticed that it's like any given day you can go 10 strokes either direction, and I guess the lower you go, that narrows down dramatically. And the higher number you have on a regular basis, that could go beyond 10 strokes. But yeah, any day.
right? And that's what I'm saying. You go out, you don't know where you're going to fall that day on your PGA bell curve, but I guarantee you, Bryson's personal bell curve is maybe, let's say, 65 to the good. His
Hmm.
poor would be 74, and his average would be 69. But I'm going to say I have the same bell curve in the sense that it's 60% average, 20% good, 20% poor. Mine, if I go out right now today, the way I'm playing this season, if I played poorly, I'd shoot it on a normal course, normal weather, about 80 or 81 is poor. And then my good would be like 70, 70, 71. My average would be 74, 75, or 76, something like that. And it would be silly, but from some guys who are in my position, they go out and they shoot 75 and they say, "Oh, I had a terrible day." When maybe if we really looked at God's video on their real scores on their personal PJ bell curve, 75 might be to the good side of their bell curve. So I would say that PJ Master Pro who doesn't really honestly know himself is deceived, or he's arrogant or something. And so I like all students, whether they're a club pro that I teach or a mini tour player I teach or a guy who's just starting out, to understand, look, you have a personal bell curve. Let's just try to get your bell curve to inch down like an inchworm and gradually get all three of those scores, your poor, your good, and your average, a little lower, by just populating the good side of your bell curve a little more often. So that side of the bell curve fattens up a little bit. The poor side of the bell curve goes a little farther away now on your bell curve. And there are three things that I've found. This is how we all play just like Bryson and Tiger and Rory. There are three things I've found that really determine in each round where you're going to fall on your bell curve. So I can say those three things, Fred, you think?
Please.
Okay. There are three things that create big holes at any level of play. When I first started teaching full time down in Jacksonville, Ponte Vedra area, these guys would be hitting it great on the video. I'm thinking, man, this guy's hitting it great. He shoots 90, 95, and he's hitting it great, warming up. And I get him on my A-star video and said, wow, Mr. Jones, that looks fantastic. You're hitting it great. He says, Joel, I love your lessons. I am hitting it great, Joel. I said, yeah, Mr. Jones, I'm hitting it better than me. I mean, what are you shooting? He says, "Oh, Joel, I'm still shooting about 90. I'm still shooting about 45 in my 9-hole league, but man, I love your lessons, Joel. I'm hitting it great." And so he and I are excited. Glad he likes the lessons. Glad he's hitting it better. But it confounded me. It's like, why are these people, some of them hitting it better than me, and they're shooting 90, and I'm shooting low to mid 70s? And so I started doing a lot more playing lessons at the beautiful courses down in that area in Jacksonville and Ponte Vedra. And what I found out, this is how I found it out. They have 6 or 7 holes. He says, "Joel, man, I'm having 6 or 7 holes like a tour player, baby. I'm about even 1, 2, 3 over, man. I'm going, and then I have 2 or 3 holes like a blind man. I make a triple and a double and a double, and I shoot my 45."
You know what I like to call that?
What's that, Fred?
Ray Ray golf. Yeah. Sometimes I play like Ray Floyd. Sometimes I play like Ray Charles.
So I'm sure you've heard this lament before.
Oh,
And so
sure have.
this is 30 years ago.
Mm,
And I'm really confounded. So I started doing a lot more playing lessons. And this is what I found. Those
yeah.
big holes, they have a drive out of play, they miss the green with a pitch, or they three putt, or they do all of them on one. And
On one
so,
hole.
but on
Yeah.
the other holes, so that's why they play 6 holes, 1 over, and 3 holes, 8 over, which equals 9 over for 9 holes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man. And so I started quantifying this 30, 35 years ago. And I've been quantifying it ever since. And I've constantly whittled down the kind of stats I keep depending on the level of the person and the level of what I'm learning uh, as I continue to teach every day and try to be humble and honest and open-minded, just to whatever facts the student and I are learning about their game and what I'm learning about golf in general. And it's really a lot of fun to show that to people, to say, yeah, you and Tiger play just the same game. You're fighting the same battle. I could show you all kinds of tour player scorecards because I define stats a lot different than pretty much everybody else in the industry. And I can show you how Bryson, he didn't, I called those 3 things bozo shots, by the way. So, so I could show you how Bryson did not have a bozo shot at the U.S. Open this year until the 16th hole of the 3rd round on Saturday.
Hmm.
He missed the green with a pitch, and then he pitched on and 2-putted for his double.
Hmm.
But up until then, he had not hit a drive out of play. He had not had a 3-putt on those crazy Pinehurst greens, and he had not missed a green with a pitch on those crazy greens where guys are missing pitches all day long.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
Bryson was a bad man that weekend, those 4 days. And a big part of it, I'm telling you, the reason he won is the same reason a guy will shoot 94 and have his best ever, all right, is because he had fewer bozo shots than he normally does. And that's why that 94 shooter got to the good side of his bell curve. Bryson got to the good side of his bell curve, just like the 94 shooter. Bryson did it at Pinehurst during the U.S. Open that weekend, and he wins by a stroke. So I can show you, and where the stats would be the same, the traditional stats or even some of the more modern stats that are being kept would say, oh, these 2 guys played the same. Like Bryson that weekend at strokes gained was 23rd in the field. So, but in the way I describe the reality, he only had 0 bozo shots the first day, 0 bozo shots the second day, 1 bozo shot the 3rd day. He had 5 bozo shots the last round, but was still able to win by 1.
Because he had that miracle shot from the bunker on 18, right?
Absolutely. Yep. He had his drive out of play there on 18. That was one of his 3 drives out of play that day. But he hacked it out off the root, up around the green, and then got up and down beautifully historically. So those are the 3 things that really, for even Bryson, Tiger, Rory, Joel, Fred, and Mr. and Mrs. Kerfluffle at the club, those are the 3 things that really dictate where you're going to be that particular day on your personal, unique PGA bell curve.
Wow. So I would look at it as, the guy, he has a great swing. It's working well, but he's not working on his short game. He's just working on his full swing. And he doesn't have the feel or the touch to like what may be the hardest shot in golf actually is like 30 yards out, right? To the flag.
Exactly. So that's the negative part of those 3 shots. The bad thing when all of us do it is And I can show you that tour players do it, and I've kept track of that over the years on certain famous tour player rounds. And, a drive out of play, missing a green with a pitch, which I call a three pitch, quote unquote, just to make it sound nice and derogatory like a three putt. So a drive out of play, a dupe, a three pitch, and a three putt. So the converse of that is when we do get the drive in play, when we do get the pitch on the green, and when we do two putt. So the beautiful skill there that the best players have gotten better at than the rest of us is being able to get a drive in play, being able to get a pitch on the green, and being able to hit your first putt the perfect distance so that your second putt is a short putt, a little tap in.
Right, right.
And that's what we need to get good at. We need to learn how to get good at drive and play, how to get a pitch on the green, and how to hit that first putt the perfect distance.
For a golfer to understand your concept of PGA, poor, good, and average, in relation to their scores and what they generally shoot, I would think that once you understand that, the mental game changes dramatically, right? Because when you are having those 3 holes where you're 8 over, you're beating yourself up pretty good and will probably impact the rest of your round.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. And that's why a big theme of my teaching, I call my teaching golf success, because I really want everybody to learn what they're doing right, even more so than what they're doing wrong. And so I spend a lot of time teaching my students, this is what you're doing correctly. This is what you're doing right. It's like a lawn. If you got, Joel, come help me with my lawn, I got a weed problem. I say, well, really, you don't have a weed problem, you have a grass problem. If you got more grass, like a golf fairway, you get all this grass, there's just no room for the weeds. So I want to help you learn how to get that drive in play. Let's get the good stuff going. What are you doing right on those drives you get in play? What are you doing right on those pitches where you hit the green? What are you doing right on those putts where you've hit the first putt the perfect distance? So absolutely, you got to learn what you're doing right, I feel, and let's make that grow and blossom, and then there just won't be any room for the weeds.
Right. And do you spend time, especially in teaching lessons, do you work with a person on their mental approach and how they're keep them from beating themselves up
Right.
or getting in their own way, as Joe Parent would say?
Yeah, indeed. And what I do, absolutely, I'll tell people the story. I first got a beautifully learned lesson on this when I was 18 years of age. I had just turned 18. I was away from my golf side of the family. I'm a third generation golf pro. Our son is a fourth generation golf pro.
Wow.
My grandpa was a greenskeeper and he built courses and was a golf pro in the Atlanta area starting 100 years ago. His son and daughter, my dad and my aunt, were always in the golf industry. My dad's first name is Rel. He passed away about 30 years ago. He worked for McGregor from 1948 to 1974. And then his sister, my aunt Louise, is one of the Ladies Hall of Famers, one of the founders. And there are only 3 ladies who've won more tournaments than my Aunt Louise on the ladies tour. And I was playing with her. I got my first lesson from her when I was 18 down in Sapphire Valley, North Carolina. I was on the back 9 with her, first time I'd ever played with her. So I'm all excited. I'm having a great time. And she hits this drive out there. And at the time, 1978, so she is 55 years old. So she's still playing in the LPGA tournament at this time, the LPGA championship. She could still play pretty well at age 55. About halfway through the back 9, her drive starts at the right center of the fairway, like always, and it kind of falls to the right a little bit, and it goes a couple steps into the right rough. And so we hop in the cart, and we call her Aunt Sis in our family. And Aunt Sis starts driving, and I said to her, oh, wow, Aunt Sis, you didn't like that drive, did you? And she stopped the cart, and she looked me right in the eye. I said, well, what's wrong with that drive? Why'd that go? She goes, I don't know, Joel, and I don't care. I said, well, I thought you've been hitting that little draw all day. I thought you wanted to draw it back. She said, well, I did. I do want to draw it back, Joel. It's been drawn back all day. but that one just stayed a little to the right. But I can still get 3 or 4 from there, can't I, Joel? And I said, yes, ma'am. Yeah, yeah. And she said, Joel, so that drive doesn't bother me in the least. She said, Joel, that's the main difference between players like me and players like you, Joel. At this time, I was about a 7 handicap. I was 18 years old. Break 80 on a good day. She says, Joel, I enjoy my good misses. Players like you, y'all complain about your good misses. She said, Joel, this is the main thing I learned from Bobby Jones in Atlanta, playing with him all the time at East Lake and other places. Old man par, Joel. All par golf is, Joel, is getting your drive out there somewhere where you can swing at it, getting the next one on or around the green, and then you get down in 2 shots from there. Joel, I do not have to make one perfect swing to shoot par golf. I said, okay. And then she started driving the cart again. And so, Fred, I've essentially learned the relevance of that lesson I learned that day when I was 18 years of age in Sapphire Valley, North Carolina, from my Hall of Fame aunt. That, of course, my logical reaction is, well, why am I trying to make my swing perfect? If I'm shooting around 80, there must be something I'm missing. She's the LPGA Hall of Famer. I'm the 18-year-old 7 handicap. I don't understand what she's saying, but I think I should probably seek to understand it because it works for her and Bobby Jones. So yeah, it's a totally different paradigm in terms of the mental game, Fred, which is why I like Golf Smarter, and I've tuned into your podcast off and on over the years, the last 10, 15 years, or 20 years you've done it. So it's like I like Golf Smarter and Harder both. And so that's the mindset of a Hall of Fame player, Bobby Jones, Louis Suggs, and others. So yeah, I work on it in the lessons tremendously with people to help them enjoy their good misses. Be like a Hall of Famer. Enjoy your good misses. Don't be like the other 90 shooters you play with. And when the 90 shooter hits it a little thin, out into the 2 steps into the right rough, about 190 or 200, and he gripes about it, don't you be like him. Just shake your head and think the Hall of Famers would enjoy that good miss. The 90 guys who are staying 90 shooters for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they're going to gripe about that good miss, and they're not going to improve.
Wow. That's an amazing lesson because there is no perfect in golf. And striving for perfection is just like hitting yourself over the head with a bat. I mean, it's just, you're not going to get there. You have to accept what it gives you, right? And that's why we keep going out. I mean, so many people, they'll go to the driving range for the first time, or they're with a friend, or they're doing something, and they get one swing. And that's all it takes, right? Is just one swing where it works, and you go, "Oh, I love this game."
Indeed.
And then it's a constant search for the rest of your life to do it again.
Indeed.
And even if you do it, you're like, okay, I want to do it again. Guy once said to me, you know what I want for Christmas this year? And I said, what's that? And he said, 2 good swings in a row.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I still think it's fun to strive for that perfection.
Oh, sure.
And of course, we all agree that, I don't want to try to hit it bad, but what Aunt Sis taught me that day, and again, like I said, it was a big part of creating her Hall of Fame career, and she learned it from Bobby Jones, which helped him. He got a lot more chilled out on his misses, and that helped him start winning majors, was to still keep trying for perfection, but understand golf, real golf, well enough to understand what is golf success for each of the 5 shots in golf, and then accept it and say, sweet, I can play par golf with that, maybe, if I missed it well enough. And to be able to recognize that, to be hip enough to your own self, your own golf game, and golf in general, to say, sweet. Can I give you a couple examples of that?
Please.
So in my newly published book here that you said I could mention here.
Please do. And tell us the title.
It's Golf Success Before Every Round. And Fred, you can see here, since you and I are on video and most everybody else is on audio, they won't see it, obviously. But There's a 3-colored chart there at the back of the book that everyone who's read the book has said this is so helpful, Joel. That
Okay.
the yellow is what the shot actually did in the middle column there,
Uh-huh.
what the ball actually did. The green is the golf success, the Hall of Famers' mindset, their reaction to that shot. The red is the average guy's reaction to the shot. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to say there are only 5 shots in golf, essentially: drive, approach, pitch, chip, putt. So a drive, it goes in. Here's the ball result, Fred. So this is the yellow column on this particular example. It goes into the edge of the left rough, 220 yards from the tee. The average guy, in his old golf paradigm, he says, "Man, I'm mad. I should have been in the fairway at 240, 250 yards." But in the fellow's new golf paradigm, if he reads my book, many of my students have adopted this paradigm. Not all of them have. Life is real, right? But the guys who are improving the most and the girls who are improving the most, the juniors I teach that are improving the most, have adopted this new golf paradigm. Now, the same ball result, it's in the edge of the left rough, 220 yards from the tee. Now, in the new golf paradigm, instead of being mad, it should have been 250 in the fairway. Here's the new golf paradigm. Sweet. I have another drive in play. I know I hit it on the heel a little bit and it got in the left rough a little bit. That's a fact. But it's also a fact, baby. This is a drive in play. And it is not going to tend to put me toward the poor side of my bell curve.
Just because you're not on in the fairway doesn't mean you're not in play, right? I've got a ball in play. I didn't lose it. It's not underwater. I'm just
Exactly.
I'm just enamored with learn to enjoy the good misses.
It'll help you create a Hall of Fame career, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
Um,
drive-in play, people ask me, what do you mean by drive-in play? I said, and it's pretty much what you said there, Fred. Basically, like my aunt said, I can swing at it. I don't have to bend it around trees or slice it or hook it around or over trees or take a penalty shot. That drives in play. If left rough, Joanne Carner told me 40 years ago, because I've got to know some of those other Hall of Famers that my aunt has befriended over the last 60, 70 years. And Miss Carner told me a long time ago, she said, lay up so I can have a 4-iron from the fairway? No way. I'd rather have an 8 or 9-iron from the rough than a 4-iron from the fairway all day long.
mm-hmm.
And Mrs. Carner understands this. She's breaking her age now in major championships.
Amazing.
So, yeah, that's a drive-in play.
Yeah.
Is you have a swing at it, and
Yeah.
you don't have to bend it or hook it around trees. If you have to bend or hook it around trees or take a penalty shot or go under some limbs, you have to change your approach shot. Then that drives out of play.
Right. Right. And with those out of play, what we like to say here is never follow a bad shot with a stupid shot.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It's like, oh well, yeah, I'm in the trees, but I can see the flag from here. No, 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 no. You're looking at double bogey easy. Just
Exactly.
put it back in the fairway, go for the bogey, and be happy, right?
Yep.
Or as your aunt would say, no, 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 it's a good miss. We can still par the hole.
Yeah. And that's I'll tell you another example, another way I teach this to people. I have people play a scramble, either 2 or 3 or 4 players. Just played one at Sharon Woods here a few weeks ago. It's a historic public course here in Cincinnati where a lot of the McGregor guys played back in 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s when they'd come into the McGregor factory on Spring Grove Avenue, a few minutes away from Sharon Woods. And it was very interesting, Fred. I could show you this, if we had the little charts, I could show you. It's amazing. Those guys' full swings, we used about as many as these guys' full swings as we used of mine. And we actually used about the same number of their short game shots as we used of mine. All right. And these guys are 10 to 14 handicaps. And so I asked each of them afterwards when I showed them the chart that I kept, unbeknownst to them. I didn't want them to be self-conscious about it, that I was keeping this. But I showed them, I said, look, why is it that your good shots are just as good as mine, but you guys shoot 80 to 100 and I shoot 70 to 80? And these guys are pretty smart. They're all students of mine. A couple of them picked up on it pretty quick. They said, oh, it's my when I hit it poorly, my misses are not as good as yours, Joel. I said, exactly. And you're not going to improve in golf as quickly as you could and as enjoyably as you could if you don't start enjoying your good misses. That's the key. Such a huge aspect of what my aunt taught me that day, 46 years ago, and what the good players have learned. They enjoy their good misses rather than griping about
Attitude. It's about
them.
your
Yeah.
attitude, right?
And it's based
And
on facts
and the
too.
tension and the tension. You like you in a place that you're not comfortable with. You're going to add tension to your shoulders, to your neck, to your arms, to your body, to your swing, right? And just if you just can breathe through it, relax, and just accept what happened and move forward, you can shoot lower scores. And
Indeed.
I think that's I've tried to accomplish all along in doing this podcast is getting advice from people like you and getting insights that really help me go, okay, I'm good here. And I've been able to bring my index down and have more fun playing.
Indeed. And again, that's absolutely a huge part of the mental game. And I say it's not, blowing smoke up somebody's fanny or trying to just put on rose-colored glasses or the power of positive thinking. I say, no, this is based on facts. I have thousands of scorecards that I started keeping 30 and 40 years ago that where I was trying to determine what causes me to have a good score, what causes me to have a bad score. And then when I started teaching in 1987 and then full time in 92, I kept keeping scorecards, facts. These are facts. It's true, it's mental game, but it's not just blowing smoke up each other's fanny, trying to stay positive and all this stuff. It's hey man, if that drives in the right rough, it really is not going to hurt your score unless you mentally, like you're alluding to, Fred, you mentally allow it to start cranking your angst up and you get all gripey because you didn't make a perfect swing. When the Hall of Famer would tell you, I don't need one perfect swing to shoot par golf.
Wow. That is a lesson that we all need to walk away with. You had mentioned in an email to me as we communicated back and forth setting this up that you said that 99.9% of golfers don't really know that they have the solution. What does that mean?
That's thank you for asking. Um, it's because they have the solution right there in their game itself. I say, a great educator on the near west side of Chicago, in the poverty-stricken there in the near west side of Chicago, where I lived in Chicago in 9th and 10th grade in the bad neighborhoods. But she was known as a great educator. She helped a lot of kids get out of poverty. She said, my job is to draw it out of the students. I think it's in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not to pour stuff into them, foreign to them. I just need to help them find it. The student and I together are working to find what's in them that's good, that's workable and passable. Let's draw it out and let's make that blossom. So 99% of players keep a scorecard, is what I'm saying. And if they keep a simple 3-line scorecard, I can show you, this is mine right there from this morning. I keep a simple 3-line scorecard there of my score and then 3 pitch and 3 putt and dupe. And just mark it down, total it up at the end of the day. That particular round, I shot 3 over and I didn't have any 3 pitches and I didn't have any 3 putts or any drives out of play. So I shot 3 over, which is, about 1 or 2 above my average for 9 holes.
Okay. So
So
that's on the
average
average
side.
side.
Yeah, average part of Joel's PGA bell curve. And so I'm saying every player has that because they're shooting the scores. If they would only keep that and then total it up at the end and say, oh man, I shot 41. That's about average for me, but I had 2 bozo shots. Without those, I just shot 39. Then I'd be on the good side of my bell curve. So I shot 39 good enough shots today that were good enough to shoot 39. I just had 2 bozo shots that ran it up to 41.
Right.
So if you had a baseball game where the score was 39-2, you would say that the one team creamed the other team, right? You had a football game where the score was 39-2, you'd say, oh, they creamed them. And that's how I'd want you to look at that. Say, man, I had 39 good enough shots today to shoot 39. I'd be on the good side of my bell curve. The 2 extra bozo shots just ran up to 41. I'm getting so good. I'm gaining on it. My bell curve is getting lower gradually. So that's
And
what I say everybody
it is
has.
gradual, right? I mean, they
Oh, of course.
moving the bell curve has got to be gradual, and don't have too high expectations, and definitely don't think, okay, so if I shot, throw out a number here, 85 last week, this week I can definitely shoot an 84. Don't do that to yourself.
Right. Exactly. So that's why I say every golfer has it in them right there in their round if they would keep this simple scorecard. And then if a student, or if and when a student starts doing that with me and they start putting it on a simple spreadsheet, I call that their golf mirror. Fred, you and I, we were cool when we were kids because we had hair down to here, baby,
Yes, yes, I
down to the
did.
middle of our chest. We were cool as can be, baby, in the 60s and 70s. But I'm not surprised when I look in the mirror right now and I find out that I don't have the longest hair in class anymore. You know what I mean? Because I've been looking at the mirror every day for the last 50, 60 years. But golfers get surprised when they shoot different scores because they're not looking in their own personal mirror. And they're frustrated and stuff. And I say, hey, baby, don't be surprised if you shoot 86. If that's, come on, get real. Like I'm saying, I'm the PGA Master teacher, big cheese schmucko here. But man, if I shoot 74.5, I got to admit that's about average for me. You know, and if I said, oh, that's a terrible day, I should shoot 68, then I'm either deceived or I'm just really arrogant and deceitful to what I'm saying to other people. And we want to be real and honest and have fun and be into it for the intrinsic nature of golf and an enjoyment of the self-satisfaction of I'm getting better myself. I love the challenge. There's no defense in golf. I'm not playing Fred. He does not block my shot on the fourth hole and run up to it and block my shot. We're playing ourselves and the course. So I call that the golf mirror. And I've seen people improve 10, 15, 20 shots in a year on their golf mirror without having to do a lot of work on their full swing quite often, because quite often their mistake is a three pitch or a three putt that's really run their score up. And getting a drive and play isn't that hard for people once they get interested in it. Like you said, give their attention to it.
Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite parts about golf is that it's an individual game that you play in a group,
That's a
right?
cool way to
It's
put it. I've never heard it put that
yeah.
way, Fred.
Thank you. It really is. You're in your own world. You're doing your own thing, but you're socializing at the same time. But and it's not a team effort. Although, you talk about Bryson and his bell curve, and I don't know if you've noticed what he's been doing on YouTube lately, but this break 50,
Yeah.
which I absolutely love
Yeah, it's
the
adorable.
concept of it, right? And
Yeah.
a friend of mine who I play with regularly, and we're very evenly matched, and we're always like, yeah, how many strokes you give me? I was like, why am I giving you strokes? You belong to this country club, and I'm coming here, so you have an advantage, and it's a 2-stroke difference. Let's just. So I suggested to him, wait a minute, let's move up to the next set of tees and try to shoot par. We'll do a scramble. We'll play best ball and combine our efforts. Now make it a team sport, right? We'll
Yeah,
combine our efforts
indeed.
and try to shoot par. And if we shoot par, next time let's try to break 70.
Exactly.
Right.
Or move back a set, maybe.
No, I'll stay forward.
Okay.
I like moving
Yeah.
forward,
But yeah, the
but
gradual
still.
nature. I call it K through 12 for golf.
Mm,
I have people, I love the Operation 36 program. I've been doing it essentially for 30 years with people. And I'm glad those nice young PGA pros in the Triangle area of North Carolina turned it into a company, about 10 or 15 years ago. So I have all my students start at 25. If they want to do it, if they're open-minded to it, start 25 yards. Let's see if you can break 36. Let's go. If you can break 36 from 25 yards for 9 holes, let's go back to 50 yards. I've played 200 rounds from 25 yards the last few years, Fred,
wow.
because I love just keep reminding myself I'm trying to shoot a score here by hitting my pitch, chip, and putt the perfect distance. And I know this will help me when I play at 3,200 yards, 3,400 yards for 9 holes. And believe it or not, Fred, I have these big, young, strapping, tough, yuppie boys, 25, 30 years old. A bunch of them love this.
Hmm.
They love playing from 25 yards. Say, yeah, baby, let's get it. and then they break it, and then they get to 50, and they go, yeah. And then maybe they miss it at 50, or or like, oh, I can't believe it, and that helps them see. Come on, man. There's some grandmas who can break 36 from 50 yards, man. You missed the green with a pitch 4 times in 9 holes, and you 3-putted 5 times. That's why you didn't break 36. Now let's go back to 3,000 yards, buddy. You're still going to be the same game. Wherever you go, there you are. You're still going to be the short game player from 3,200 yards as you are from 50. So it has been so much fun, Fred. Yeah, I'm with you, man. Be open-minded. I'm a leftover hippie. I mean, we don't have to do what the authority figure tells us all the time. Rebel against authority, trust no one over 30. All that stuff. Let's live a little. It's recreation. And so, yeah, man, it is so much fun to show people this and say, let's get gradual about this. Let's gradually improve. It's K through 12 for golf is what a friend asked me one time. He said, what do you call that, Joel, that gradual progression? So you don't get mad at the ninth grader, the second grader. He's getting all the right answers in second grade math class. And then you say, oh, sweet, let's throw him in the ninth grade algebra trig class. And then we get mad at him because he didn't get all the right answers. No. But all those ninth graders who are getting all the right answers in algebra trig class at one time were a second grader. So let's have an objective measure, just like traditional Western schooling. Let's do the easier stuff first. And when you master that, let's go to the next. Let's go to the next. And so I love that. And believe it or not, like I said, they're a bunch of young, strong, disc golf players and soccer players and baseball players and big, strong guys. Hey, this is cool, man. I like this. I'm getting there.
Yeah. Okay. Again, the book is called Golf Success Before Every Round by Joel Suggs, Suggs. You can find it on Amazon, correct? Great. Find it online. And you also have a YouTube channel that people can see more from your stuff.
Indeed.
And Joel, you're going to have to come back because I want to know more about your family history. I'm really intrigued about hearing from your son all the way back for 4 generations of golf instruction. That sounds fascinating to me, and I think it's worthy of more time here on Golf Smarter. I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Fred, for having me. Like I said, I've enjoyed you a lot over the years off and on. Great to be with you personally.